Hey, so if you're clicking on this, you're probably interested in talking through the mix of Cup of Tea for some reason. I'm going to go over the mix, the production, show some of my kind of tricks, and probably prove that I'm not flawless and I'm human and there's no AI used in the making of this track. So let's get into it.
Oh, baby, you got something about you I can't quite seem to shake this feeling the we're meant to be.
Swapping over to Studio, what is it called now? Studio Pro. I've been using this for 5 years. A DAW's a DAW. I just like this one. It works. The song Cup of Tea really starts off with an instrumental. Poor Rover is basically just guitar, mandolin, and bass. So I wanted to start off the song basically being just that. So I'm going to play that. Then I throw in some violin just to make it interesting. I hard pan the acoustic guitar left, mandolin right, bass right up the middle. So I'll add that as we're playing along. I'm also a big fan of buses, so I throw mic and DI for both violin and mandolin into a bus and just kind of deal with it. It just makes it easier for me. It's like a bucket I have to deal with as opposed to individual tracks. It makes it a little bit easier for me. And I'm throwing everything to an instrument bus as well, just so I can process that a little bit. Funny story, I had planned on recording the vocals and the guitar at the same time. When I got into the day of recording, it just wasn't working, so I decided just to stick with acoustic guitar. I'm using a Earthworks SD50, I think is what it's called. Small diaphragm condenser mic, pointed at the 12th fret of the guitar, and that sounds like this. You can hear a little bit of the bleed of the bass. We recorded this in this room. I had built some ISO panels. I think you probably can see it back there as an ISO panel that I built, really to separate the mandolin and the acoustic guitar, and I feel very happy with how that sounds. Obviously, there's also some bass bleed through because Ryan, our bass player, he likes to have a monitor so he can hear, which I totally get. He's the only instrument that's not projecting acoustically. So we have a little bit of bleed coming through the bass. I'm literally just doing some EQ on this. I think I'm taking off some of the high end. It comes across really bright. That mic is very bright. I put on new strings. I even use like the old school Manel strings, which are darker. It still was incredibly bright. I'm boosting a little bit of the 100 hertz just to make it sound more balanced and taking out some of the 200 because that's like muddy. 250, I think. 208. You can see I tried some other stuff. It didn't sound as good, so I just stuck with this. It works. It's very bright, very present, but ultimately is not grating because it took that high end off. Let's look at the mandolin now. Sounds amazing. Again, similar thing with this. On the mix bus itself, I'm adding just a little bit of EQ, For the mandolin, there was a much bigger problem with bass bleed because of the way we positioned them in the room. It's kind of overlapping, adding some weirdness. So I just cut that lower stuff. I also found it to be really bright, so I took out some of that. Now you may be saying, Zeb, mandolin is supposed to be really bright. And to that I say, moving on to bass is the next big one. And on this one, I'm using EQ just to take out some of the high end. It's really clicky, which works in some of our songs. Not so much in this one, just due to the fact of how bright the acoustic and the mandolin already were. It just felt like it was too much. It was kind of interrupting with the vocal. So I just took all the high end out above 2K basically, dipping a little bit around, what is that, like 180, 181, and 300, 308, just to kind of clean up the low mids, which got a kind of overwhelming in the final mix. If you add the bass in, it sounds like this. EQ off. EQ back on. And you can hear it was kind of bright. Clicky may not be the right word. Felt like it was interrupting with the vocal, excuse me. So I just took out some of that, and now it fits in very nicely. I also mentioned there's some violin that we recorded. This is a little different. I had a different session because Frank, our mandolin player, is also our violin player. So we had to record that separate than the day of. We had a violin track from a previous iteration of this song that we ended up losing the files for. I still had the violin track, so I kind of slotted it in. Apparently I just noticed I did this. I'm panning the mic and the DI out so they're about 50%. So if you remove everything and just listen to the violin, it sounds like this. Just a clean violin sound. Listen to just the instruments for that part. It sounds like this. Should be stated that this is just the intro at this point. There's nothing else you're not hearing. And then we're in the verse right there. So for the violin, again, mainly EQ, cutting a lot of that low end out, peaking up a little bit about 2K and 5K just to make it sound a little bit more present. I think I did similar things for the DI as well. Actually, I didn't. The DI was already more direct, felt a little too direct, took off some of the presence. Looks like for the solo, I'm not even using the DI, which we'll get to the solo when it's time for the solo, but you can see very similar EQ curve, a little more 2K to make it a little more bitey. And I'm also using some saturation from AirWindows. If you don't know AirWindows, go check it out. He's here on YouTube. He makes incredible stuff for absolutely free, and it's just great. So I don't know exactly why I stumbled upon this particular saturation, but it sounded good. So let's actually just listen to the solo. And you can see it's just adding a little bit more bigness, a little bit more saturation, a little more sound. Sounds cooler, I guess. More bigger, more-er. You can hear it, especially on some of the more mid-rangey notes of the Vio, that there is some distortion happening. I mean, listen. Right there, you hear it? A little bit of clipping. And, doesn't come across in the final mix so much, which is why I added it, because it sounded really nice and dirty, but it comes across as really present in the final mix. Violin bus. I'm using a little bit of compression, literally probably like 2 dB compression on the whole thing. Not even half a dB at most, quarter of a dB. This is just to make it sit a little bit more. That's about it. And then I added all that 5K, and then I got to the end and I'm like, I don't like it. I took out a little bit of it. I'm using Mix Tool, which is like the gain automation as my gain automation. So if I open up my automation lane, you can see I'm doing some small adjustments throughout the whole song. Nothing crazy. Like that's a 0. I'm doing some dipping here and there. And then analog delay, which is a delay that's voiced analog. Not a lot of feedback. 8th note delay. And not a lot of mix. You don't even really notice it until I turn it off. You hear the repeats just a little bit. Yeah. It's really just subtle, just there to add a little bit of space. There's not a ton of reverb on this song. So if I go back to my solo, my instrument bus again. You can see I've got a room reverb for the instruments. be sending. Should I not be sending? I am, but I don't have it enabled. So even less. I'm basically just sending violin there. Not a lot of reverb on this song. It didn't feel like it needed it. That may just be it, actually. I don't think I'm doing anything else. I could confirm that by looking. Yeah, that's it. I don't think there's anything crazy that I'm doing. And if you're a starting off mix engineer, recording engineer, just doing stuff in your own bedroom, sometimes the song doesn't need a ton on the instrumental, especially for American roots music like this. It just didn't sound like it needed it, so I didn't do a whole lot. I mean, the takes were pretty good. They all meshed together pretty well. We recorded this live in this room together at the same time, so that kind of helps as well. You know, you can see, we look at this, the different takes are different colors. I'm sliding in different things here and there if there's a mistake or whatnot, but for the most part, it's fairly clean and cohesive. I'm sure you could pick it apart and find 1,000 things you don't want to listen to or were not worth having in there, but I liked it. Let's get into the vocal mix. And this is where everybody runs for the hills. And by everybody, I mean, of course, me. I recorded this with this SM7B a few days after, maybe weeks after. I'd have to go back and look at my notes, which is a lie. I don't have notes. I could look at when this was recorded, maybe, in the metadata. I guess not. So yeah, I recorded this weeks after. I had to get inspired. I just kind of slapped on an SM7B with my Fathead preamp, which is basically like a cloud lift, but for smaller. It requires the same thing. It just doesn't require an additional cable. You can plug it directly into the mic, which is nice. Because when I first started getting into this, I didn't want to spend the money on an extra XLR cable because I'm cheap. Rather spend it on plugins, right, guys? So let's listen to the vocal and see what we can figure out.
Listen to the long leaf pines.
Let's listen to it dry as well. I'll turn off the vocal bus effects and the channel effects.
Singing a laugh before they could climb. You know you gotta live unseen for a while.
Sounds uninspired. I don't know. Sounds pretty average. I'm adding some spot on, which is basically two-knob auto-tune. Very slight amounts, 17 and 24. For this part, it's not super noticeable. Doing some EQ. This is mainly taking out the low end. Doing some compression. 4:1 threshold there. I think it's probably like...
I used to listen to the
4 to probably... It gets higher to probably 8 dB, maybe 10 dB when the vocal level kicks up. And then I'm doing some more EQ, taking out a little bit of the low mids. I don't have a particularly boomy voice because that is me singing. Sorry, I should probably say that. Taking out, what is that, like 2 to 3 dBs of the low mid just to keep the vocal in the right place. Taking out some 2.8, 2.6, and then boosting just a smidgen to give it more presence. This is a pretty warm mic, and by that I mean not very open at the very top. It's a dynamic mic. It doesn't sound like dark or anything, but it's just not particularly bright, especially when compared to a large diaphragm condenser like I acquired after I did this recording session. Doing a little de-essing. And then we're getting into some parallel stuff. Studio Pro has this effect called splitter, which basically creates, it is what it sounds like. So you can split the audio signal to go down 2 paths. One is unaffected in this case, but cutting 1.2 dBs. And the other one is going through the LA2A compressor by UAD. Let's take a listen to get some context.
Leaf pines.
And you can already hear as I've added the small amount of auto-tune, EQ, compression, EQ, DS, it already sounds closer to a quote-unquote professional vocal sound.
Singing a laugh before they could climb. You know you gotta live unseen for a while.
Let's get into the middle of this and turn on the LA2A.
For fighting chance at the roller coaster named romance. It's never easy to break through the ground.
You can hear it. It's not doing a whole lot there. It probably does a little bit more in the chorus. Let's take a listen to that.
Oh, baby, you got something about you. I can't quite seem to shake this.
Yeah, just makes it more present, more up front. If I do turn it on and off.
Baby, You got something about you. I can't quite seem to shake this.
It's not even doing a whole lot of the actual volume. It's just like perception. It makes it seem a little louder, and therefore perception is reality, so it is a little louder. But as far as like actual dB goes, it's not changing a ton. From there, I go into this AirWindows plugin to Tape 8, which, if you can't figure it out, is tape emulation. If I add that in, I think it's just changing based on this. It looks like it's adding a little bit of the characteristics, maybe a tiny bit of saturation.
Oh, baby, you got something about you. I can't quite seem to shake this feeling the we're meant to be.
That's really subtle. I actually, to be honest with you, can't hear a ton about it, the differences. Am I doing any automation with this? Yeah, turning it on and off, I guess. No. Oh, yeah, I guess I am. I'm turning it off at the very end. That's funny. You know, sometimes you get into a mix, you do something, you don't remember why you did it, which is why I should have filmed this video months ago, but life. Yeah, that's not even doing that much.
Oh, baby, you got something about you.
It's doing a little bit, not a ton. It's not crucial to the vocal sound. And then I'm using Waves Vocal Rider Mono. This is just to help with the consistent vocal level. I've never been particularly good at cueing in the automation for phrases. When I've gone to professional recording studios, I've got engineers that are really good at that. And then watching them do that, I'm like, that's going to take me forever to do that. And I have worked on the skill. I'm just not there yet. Oftentimes, I need to get out a mix pretty quick. So I just slap this on there. And it really helps to smooth out the vocal. So if we listen to this.
Oh, baby, you got something about you. I can't quite seem to shake this feeling the we're meant to be. Oh, honey.
I mean, I'm taking out 5 dB and I'm adding 2.5, negative 2.5, positive 2.5. So 5 dB a range. So if it's a little quiet, it'll go up 2.5 at max. If it's a little loud, it'll go down 2.5 at max. And that's just the sweet spot for this song, for me, for this sensitivity, for this threshold. It just worked out really well for my perception of how this goes. Now, you also might be saying,
I see some Melodyne there. You're not a good singer.
I am, but that day I recorded, I was not particularly on pitch. So if we listen to this.
So brush off the dirt and pull her close to you.
Not if I were to disable the Melodyne.
So brush off the dirt and pull her close to you.
That still sounds pretty fine. I don't know why I needed Melodyne then. Sometimes you get into a mix and you just do something that doesn't make sense. But yeah, I use Melodyne on this. I've got no shame doing that. I could have banged my head against the wall and got a better recording, for sure. I have done better recordings than this. But at the end of the day, I needed to get a mix out. I needed to hit a deadline and made it work. I'm not ashamed by that. You shouldn't be ashamed by that if you have to use Melodyne or Autotune. Especially Autotune can be a vibe sometimes. And then in the vocal bus, I'm doing some de-essing, kind of similar to this. And then I'm using my gain automation there. We also have some backup vocals. One is kind of like a double with some effects on it.
Sooner or later it'll happen to you.
Kind of reminiscent of Ruth Moody in her cover of Dancing in the Dark, which is one of my favorite songs of all time. I just loved the effects choices and the dynamics of that song, and I was trying to kind of use that as a reference, and I thought this would sound cool, and let's listen to them together.
Sooner or later it'll happen to you. So brush off the dirt and pull her close to you.
I'm taking out all the low end up to 500. Doing some cassette tape emulation. And I'm taking out more low end that doesn't seem to exist. And a ton of high end down to just 2.8. If I were to isolate that.
It'll happen to you. So brush off the dirt and pull her close to you.
I mean, like, pretty simple song. I'm not focusing a ton on articulation because I'm doubling at this point, and I knew that's going to get lost, so I just tried to match a vibe, so to speak. Got some mixed bus processing, yep.
Sooner or later it'll happen to you.
So brush off the dirt and pull it close to you. It's breaking up a little bit. I wonder where that's from. Maybe it's from the input of my interface. From there, I'm enabling cassette emulation, so let's listen to that. Sooner or later it'll happen to you. Just adding a little bit of crunch, a little bit of lo-fi, making it characteristic of it, as opposed to doing anything, as opposed to just adding a vibe, adding some character, then just adding some delay. Sooner or later it'll happen to you. Really short slap with a little bit more feedback than a typical slap might have, and not a ton of effect level. So brush off the dirt and pull it close to you. Cool. You can see I recorded more, but it just seemed to work really well in the pre-chorus, so I left it there. But we have other harmonies. Oh, baby, you got something about you. I can't quite seem to shake this feeling that we're meant to be. It's harmonies. My wife sang this one, which I'll isolate so you can hear her lovely voice. Oh, baby,
you got something about you.
This mic has a really nice quality on her voice. It worked really well as a background vocal for her, and I bet if I removed this pop filter, it would sound even better. But for this, I thought it sounded nice.
I can't quite seem to shake this feeling that we're meant to be.
And I'm processing all of these sort of similarly. Smidge of auto-tune, again, 20%. Make it sound a little more consistent in a pop song. Some tape emulation, and then I use the live version of Vocal Writer, and that's what this sounds like. Oh, baby, you got something about you. I can't quite seem to shake this feeling that we're meant to be. Oh, honey, can I make a suggestion? You can hear it's a little sloppy. I gave her that direction to be a little looser. Makes it sound human. And in the year 2026, it's good that you sound human. I also recorded a vocal harmony part. Let's listen to that with the context of just it by itself. Oh, baby, you got something about you. I can't quite seem to shake this feeling the way I'm meant to be. It's a lower harmony. Boring. But with the main vocal. Oh, baby, you got something about you. I can't quite seem to shake this feeling the way I'm meant to be. Yeah, sounds cool. It's a vibe. Same thing, a little bit of auto-tune, tape emulation. I did some after-the-fact cutting of 2K. Kind of got in the way of the main vocal, I thought, a little bit. And then Vocal Writer. Context of the whole thing with every harmony part. Oh, baby, you got something about you. I can't quite seem to shake. Yeah, just really live and thick and full and fun. I'm doing some mix bus, some background vocal bus compression. Again, a smidgen of just kind of taming off the peaks a little bit. Taking in all the low end, dipping the vocal frequency, lead vocal frequency around 2K, and getting a little bit of that, was that 4K, just to kind of make it stand out a little bit more. De-essing, 36 dB is pretty much the hell out of it. Short room reverb, and then gain automation. I cut my wife a little soon to go read her books. So I had to record some of the higher harmony parts by myself. I don't sound near as good as her in that range, but I can make it work. So let's listen to that. Spend my life working a 9 to 9. Have some money in it. I actually think that sounds really saucy and nice there. But in the bridge, I'm doing a little more obvious and less nice, more obnoxious harmonies, I'd say. Sooner I get there, the more I'll say. I'm also throwing some saucy delay on it just to kind of make it ring out a little bit more. Let's kind of isolate the high vocal so you can hear what I sound like. Sooner I get there, the more I'll say. I didn't do a bad job on that. I think I was just kind of focused on hitting the note and ringing it out. So it sounds a little, I don't know, it sounds pretty clear. It works out. And then a similar thing on the lower harmony.
Sooner I get there, the more I'll say.
Nothing crazy. All together.
Sooner I get there, the more I'll say.
Comes together pretty nicely at the end there. Oh, I'm also adding some kind of ad-lib stuff at the very end. Let's listen to just the vocals in the very end.
T.O. babe.
Big reverb at the end. It's the only time I really use a big reverb like that is at the very, very end. Almost make the payoff kind of worth it. I'm also doing some vocal doubling, like I'm just saying, oh babe, and then oh babe up high. Let's isolate those.
Oh, babe.
Just kind of gave that one everything I had. Getting a little bit of auto-tune, some two-tape, and then a little bit of plate reverb on top of what I did. Okay, interesting. Sure.
Oh, babe.
I hear it now. Yeah, so that I'm hitting that tape emulation really hard, so it sounds gritty and it stands out. And then the plate is just a plate. I think it's supposed to be like Abbey Road's plate. Sounds really nice. Chris from AirWindows did a really nice job on that one. I'm also doing another Oh Babe up high.
Oh, babe.
Yeah, I hit the note. Again, a little bit of auto-tune, some two-tape. I think I'm hitting that one pretty hard as well.
Oh, babe.
Yeah, adding a little bit of saturation there. Together.
Oh, babe.
And then with the lead vocal.
Oh, babe.
And then with the high vox and the low vox harmonies.
Oh, babe. There's something about.
Oh,
There's something about.
got on the next thing there a little bit too soon. I love harmonies. I probably could have spent a little more time on making them sound a little saucier, but I'm pretty happy with how it turned it out. Then I'm doing some kind of outro ad-lib stuff, and I'm mixing up the vocal sound for that. I experimented with throwing it into a separate channel, and I just, for whatever reason, it took too long to get to a sound I like. Doing some automation around it, throwing more slap into it by like 12 dB, wow. And panning a little bit to the right, and I'm turning off the tape saturation to make it a little less present.
There's something about. There's something about you, oh,
This
honey.
effect channel, this effect channel right here.
Oh, honey, can I make a suggestion? Can I make a suggestion? Yeah. I'd like to come over. Yeah.
Yeah, and the tape slap is literally 2 tape 8. Very short delay, I think 1/64th. Triplet of 140 is like close to 0 milliseconds. So I'm adding a 21 millisecond delay with a tiny bit of feedback. And wait, huh? Hello? Oh, okay. Oh, I see what I did. It's fun kind of doing some archaeological surveys on your mixes of the past. What's happening is I'm using that same effects channel for multiple sections and multiple different effects, which is probably bad practice, but I did it, so let's deal with it. Before, I'm using a longer delay.
You got something
100%
about.
wet. Just adding 30 millisecond, or well, 21 to 25 milliseconds and a little bit of feedback.
I can't quite seem to shake this.
You can hear it. It's pretty subtle there. I'm also using a tape delay, again, from AirWindows. 100% wet. Some characteristics. That time is pretty loose, so I just went to it, sounded like a good slap. Doing some gain automation there as well, depending on where I want it. And then the outro, it works like this.
Something about you, oh honey, can I make a suggestion? Can I make a suggestion? Yeah.
I just want it to be wide and spacey and vibey, and it did that. I also have a vocal bus. So I've got a vocal bus for my lead vocal bus for my background vocal, and a just overall vocals bus in case I ever need to spit out an instrumental version for some reason. I could do that really quickly. Getting into the effects channels, ones I haven't already gone on to. This instrument room is just a room reverb. from Studio Pro, 45 milliseconds. It's more to be felt than heard. Again, that's just on the violin. Doing the Abbey Road trick, I'm cutting all the low end, all the high end, and kind of depressing the 2K-ish to 3K, just to kind of let the vocal sit there a little bit better and the main instrument, and then doing some gain automation. We talked about the tape slap. This is a plate reverb. This is the Soundtoys little plate. Incredible little plate. Got the mod turned on, 1 second, 100% mix, and what is that, probably 200 or so, maybe 300 on the low cut. It sounds great. I want a little bit more space for the vocal, so I'm just figured out that this gives me like 16 notes of 140 with minus 10 milliseconds was like 30-ish milliseconds for one repeat, 100% wet. So it's basically adding like a pre-delay to make it sound a little bit bigger, give more space for the vocal. And then I'm taking even less of the frequencies out, but boosting the 2K, and then I'm sidechaining it. No, I'm just compressing it to make it a little smoother, it looks like. I've also got an analog delay. So if we heard that kind of saucy delay that just kind of kept repeating into the space, that's what that is. Literally two effects, which is the analog delay by Studio Pro. This one's got a lot of feedback and a quarter note delay, 100% wet, and then a little mix reverb just to kind of get it out of the direct center of the vocal, kind of make it push it in the background a little bit. I also played around with the idea of doing like a tape saturation bus, kind of for some parallel saturation. Ultimately, I didn't go with that, and let's see if I can showcase why.
You got something about you.
It was just too much. I could probably find a way to make it work, but I tried for 5 minutes. Didn't sound good. It kind of muddied up the mix a little bit, a little too much saturation, a little too much character and sauce, so I just took it out. I left it because I liked the idea of it. And then I'm doing that big reverb at the very end, 2 seconds, a little bit of pre-delay. Huge room, 6 meters. You can see the kind of emulation there. Very, very big.
Oh, babe, there's something about you.
Just real big. On the mix bus, I used to be a firm believer in SSL bus compressor. Still am. I'm not quite so firm on it, though. I do believe in it still. So for this one, I'm just using this UAD plugin, master tape. It's doing some volume, bigness, a little bit more character, a little bit less high end, make it a little warmer. Turn it back on so you can hear it.
Pour myself a cup.
It's actually adding a nice presence boost to it, kind of making it sound more hi-fi, more of a sheen. Thought I had some other... I didn't go over the instrument bus. For the instrument bus, I'm doing a trick that I learned where I am basically doing some mid-side stuff to take out a lot of the 2K in the middle, which leaves space for the vocal. Nowadays, I probably use something like Soothe, or Waves has a free plugin they gave away called Recurve that does basically the same thing. This is a little bit more heavy-handed, I guess, or not precise, which can be cool. So I'm just taking out, what was that, 1.2? That's just where the vocal, I felt like the vocal kind of opened up a little bit more. And then I'm just doing some tape machine emulation.
You got something about you.
Yeah, not peaking, not really adding a lot of saturation, just adding a little bit of character, kind of gelling it all together to make it sound more like an instrumental track and leave space for the vocals. And on the post effects, kind of as a proof of concept, maybe help out with a master, I'm adding some EQ, but this is not in the final mix, so this is just for kind of a glimpse into what I do.
Oh, honey, can I make a suggestion? Oh,
It's not even doing a whole lot. I mean, it looks like it's pretty drastic, 3 dB, 2 dB, something like that. It's not doing a ton. And then I'm using a mix tool, which is our gain, to make it sound bigger to get to a certain level. And that's really the mix breakdown and the production. It's pretty simple production, but nonetheless, I would have killed for a artist to go through something like this when I was first getting started at like 16, 17, 18, just to see what it was like to be in a digital audio workstation, and to go through even a simple song would have been really useful for me, so I thought I'd do the same. If you're still here, thank you for watching. It really means a lot, and make sure to stream the song and be on the lookout for more songs coming out by Poor Rover, as well as mix breakdowns and other cool things. Thank you.